ever want to read a book about an old lady who's all alone and basically waiting to die? Me, if it's Sipsworth by Simon Van Booy. Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Spineless Books, your one-stop shop for all things audiobook. Prior to reading Sipsworth, I had never heard of author Simon Van Booy, but it turns out he's quite the interesting fellow. Born in England, he lives in New York, and he's an EMT crew chief in his spare time. The man has written countless books for adults, for children, some fiction stories, some philosophy books. He's kind of all over the map. I heard about Sipsworth and I put it on hold from the library. It took quite a while to get it. It seems like it's actually a fairly popular book, even though I only vaguely heard about it somewhere on some list. Sipsworth is the story of 83-year-old Helen Cartwright, who's been living in Australia for the last 3 decades. She's a widow and she's lost her only son, so she decides to move back to the area of England where she was born and raised, and she's essentially there waiting for the end of her life. She doesn't really have any friends or acquaintances. She doesn't really interact with anyone. She doesn't really talk to anyone except maybe the dreaded conversation in the grocery store. Helen is really by herself. When Helen discovers that she has inadvertently allowed someone's pet mouse into her house, her whole world changes. Everything in her life opens up, and suddenly nothing is what Helen expected. This book had me cracking up at every turn. Christine Rendell's narration is fabulous. It's really well done, and she just sort of nails all of the thoughts in Helen's head. It's all told in third person, but there's something about the way that the writing describes what Helen is thinking that just feels so accurate. This woman is an old coot. And she has the perspective that we commonly associate with the elderly of being a little bit too impatient and a little bit too over it. But there's something about it that's just completely charming. And even though this book was sort of easy and silly and simple, I loved it. I really enjoyed listening to it, and it was quite a wonderful palate cleanser. There's something really sweet about listening to an old person have demands that maybe seem ridiculous to the rest of us, but to them, it's super important, and we should all be so lucky as to get there one day. As Helen's choice to bring this mouse into her house starts to unravel, things happen in her life that she didn't expect, and I certainly didn't expect as the reader. An entire cast of characters emerges, and they are one more delightful and adorable than the next. Who Helen ends up surrounding herself with is really fabulous, and this story is just a feel-good, happy, wonderful experience. If you're looking for a short read that can get you out of a slump, or maybe just something that's a change of pace from what you usually take on, Sipsworth is a win in every situation. It's really quick, it's really charming, and it's really well written. Simon Van Booy is a good writer. I think I'm going to be looking into more of his books. I just have to first figure out what's a fiction novel and what's a philosophy novel. Not that I wouldn't be open to reading philosophy, but I think I'm at this point looking more for something that's a story rather than something to think really hard about. Regardless, Simon Van Booy gave me a lot to think about with wonderful Helen Cartwright and her mistaken mouse friend, and I really enjoyed this book. It wasn't long, like I said. Christine Rendell did a great job, and you really kind of can't miss with this one. Sipsworth is fabulous. But remember, you might love what I hate and hate what I love, so make your own opinion. But thanks for listening to mine. See you next time.